Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for another live stream at Twin Pines Studios. Again, I am Dylan Schweitzer. We're going to be having a fun adventure today by looking at an adventure tune. So I did this game for a game jam recently. If you're unfamiliar with game jams, that's basically a bunch of game developers come together and they work on a certain prompt for a sort of competition in general. So basically, there'll be a sort of prompt, whether it's the game software you have to use, the sort of requirements for the game, certain tasks they might want to see in the game, and you execute the prompt as such. You have a time constraint in order to do that, and then you submit the game, and then the competition people, or whatever the fancy term might be for them, they'll test out the games and they'll rank them from greatest to least, and then the winner wins a prize. It's a really great opportunity to get people together, to try out these different games, to network, to learn, all this great stuff. So I got to be a part of this game, and if you're on my Discord, you could check a link to the game and try to play it for free. It's a lot of fun. It's a very fun side-scroller adventure game. We're going to be talking about the music I made for that game. All of the music that I have for that game came out of this piece. The menu music is a specific loop that I adjusted from about the 2/3 point of the music here. So I figured what we do, instead of listening to the whole piece, which you could do on your own. Again, if you look at our Discord server, you could check out the piece. You can grab a link in there in one of the chats in there. I figured we just look at it from section at a time and break down accordingly. We'll look at the chords. We'll look at the different stuff going on in the piece and all of that fun stuff. Alrighty, friends, let's check this out. Just the first section right here. Oh, yeah. Okay. As you can see, it's very triumphant, heroic. That's right. All right, last few seconds here. Oh. There we go. All right, let's dive into this track a little bit. So let's see. I'm thinking, let's just look at the strings real quick. See what the strings are up to. Give me 1 second. All righty here. Let's look at the strings. Let's check the MIDI out for this guy. If it'll let me. There we go. Sorry, I'm operating with one hand here because I had an injury this week. But yeah, so during that section, we just have like these low cellos and the low basses just kind of keeping the rhythm, locking it down, kind of driving the song forward in general. And then I have this interesting ostinato pattern. An ostinato is just kind of a repetitive melody or pattern in general that gets played throughout a section of music. So I have this sort of which you can see up here. Let's take a look at that guy. So those are the bass and the cello. I had the viola kind of doing some little, you can barely tell it's in there, but it's just kind of giving it a little extra flavor, you know? Who doesn't like a little extra mustard on the sandwich, you know? All right, let's check out this violin part up here. Let's look at that guy. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And then I have the violin ones coming in with this big high note. It's very light in the mix because I just wanted to give a coating up there. I didn't want anything super crazy. And then you can hear the strings all together right here. Let's play it from right here. Yeah. Again, this is just kind of driving the piece forward. So if we zoom out and listen to everything now, you can kind of hear all of that in context as so. Yeah, the interesting part right here is not really the strings. The interesting part is definitely the brass and the percussion. So real quick, since we're on that topic, let's check out the brass. Oh yeah, quite royal as you could see. So I got this east-west French horn, and I think I'm dubbing it with a trumpet as well. So again, we have this big. It's very royal to try to use fourths in your melodies in general. So for example, I have. Let's see if I can get a piano to kind of help us out here. That would be nice. Oh, where is a piano when you need one? Here we go. So we have like a. Yeah, so I have it going dun 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 dun. Then I have it kind of outlining the F chord in a very triumphant way. Having this big jump is very John Williams, kind of like Indiana Jones. And then having this dun dun. It's very, again, having these big open jumps with the brass. It just kind of screams, fanfare, big giant moment in general. So let's check out just the brass again right there. Yeah, so the brass right there is just doing these big, long, luscious chords. Let's check that out. Here we go. Oh, we probably don't want the sheet music. But if you'd like the sheet music, there you go. It's some nice little sheet music. For those of us who like little boxes, we could see it like that. Let's skip ahead. A minor to C. Again, these aren't the interesting parts. This is the supporting role. I do have this cool little call and response with the trumpet right here that I think is kind of fun. Again, I'm thinking like royal fanfare sort of call and response, so you can kind of hear it respond right here. You got the French horn. And that's all the brass. There we go. And then the woodwinds, again, these guys are just kind of blending with the brass. I have the bassoon kind of going with the cellos. So you can hear if I put those French horn swells in there again. The woodwinds are just giving them a little more color, a little more flavor. Yeah, that's not too bad. Awesome. Let's try the percussion now. Well, I guess real quick before we do that, we'll look at some of the aux stuff we got here. So I have some additional instruments like the lute, the dulcimer, the piano in general. And you're probably thinking, well, this melody sounds familiar. They're dubbing the violin too. Yeah, the goal was to kind of just give it that ostinato a little more punch in the mix, and to also help the ostinato feel a little bit more Renaissance-y, feel a little more royal in that aspect. Again, this is in the context of a sort of medieval Renaissance era sort of game. So little things like that will kind of help punch our ear in that direction. Again, I wasn't going strict Renaissance for this whole thing because, I mean, we have giant percussion that sounds very, very modern. But again, doing that sort of stuff can kind of help lend its ear in that direction. Let's take a look at all of the percussion. And if you know anything about my writing style, I use an absurd amount of percussion, probably an unholy amount, way too much. Let's check this guy out. All right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of how this percussion turned out for sure. Anyways, sorry, I get kind of lost in the sauce there. So let's break that down. So the thing that's doing the most heavy lifting is probably this loop that I found from Damage. Damage is this sort of percussion library that's meant for like hybrid cinematic music. They got tons of stuff in there, though, not just individual instruments, but awesome, fun loops in general. So here's the percussion for that. And that low end is so big. Like, I tried to mess with the loop in general just to make it bigger and fuller, and oh my goodness, it was so much fun. So that's like doing the most of the heavy lifting. Then I have just some hi-hat. It's technically not a hi-hat. I'm thinking of it like a hi-hat, just driving the piece forward. These would be just like crash cymbals, like a marching cymbals. And then I have the snare drum. It's very light in the mix. I'll turn it off. Or I'll turn it up, I should say. So you can see there's a lot going on there. But again, that's just to give it a little bit of flavor in the mix. And then, of course, we have our suspense cymbal. And then everything together, we'll start building the track again. So we have the strings. Again, the percussion's really driving this piece home. If you're just now joining us, we're looking at a game score I did recently for a medieval Renaissance game. Let's see, let's add the woodwinds. Again, that's just adding a little bit of color up there in the space. A little bit of color. Let's look at the brass. And everything else. There we go. Look at that. All the colors. All the colors of the rainbow. Let me know what you think in the chat. How's it sounded on your end? Too loud, too quiet? Too much fun? Not enough fun? All right, moving right along to the next section. Whoa, fanfare. There he is. I was getting worried about it. Again, this is just like a little downbeat section of the game. Give the game a little bit of love, a little bit of background music. And we'll leave it right there. So let's break down that section just a little bit. So we have this giant transition. Again, big royal fanfare. Let's look at that brass, because that's obviously the most interesting part. Again, this is just, imagine just 3 trumpets walking up to the gate, introducing the king or the warrior or whoever the main character might be at the time. Check this out. Yeah, there we go. Interesting. I like that. So, again, what we're doing is one thing you'll see a lot with this sort of period of music is an emphasis on just like all of the big chords or all the major chords in a key. So, right here we have F to B flat, F to C. All major, just going back and forth in a very rhythmic fashion. This brings a very big, happy, or I shouldn't say happy necessarily, but big, triumphant and royal sound. Gleeful, maybe is the right word. So we have F, B flat, F, C, F. And then it does the same thing right here. I just have the rest of the band and the timpani going C, 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 F, just to kind of call and response. And then I do the same thing here. I just add another layer, another trumpet on top. And then I use that just to kind of transition us into this little section. I decided, you know, we needed like almost like a jester join the band all of a sudden. So we just have like a little tambourine. Just, oh yeah. Who doesn't like a little tambourine? A little tambo. And then, yeah, we got some fun stuff going on there. I just got like the low strings, just doing that rhythmic pattern. They're kind of taking that trumpet line and they're now making it an accompaniment. As it was once the most important part, now it's just kind of driving the song forward in an accompaniment style. I just have the upright basses, just again keeping the beat. They don't do a whole lot in this song. The basses, they're kind of like a rock bass almost, is one way to kind of think about it. So like the genre of rock. You can see that right here. You can see that. And then they chill out right here. And you might be thinking, why do they chill out a little bit right there? Well, they don't have the most interesting part anymore. They're going to give that melody over to the dulcimer. And one thing that's also fun is I have the lute kind of ding, 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 ding. All right, then we have the dulcimer come in. Again, trying to just really lean into that sort of Renaissance era, medieval sort of stuff. Getting a dulcimer and that sort of tingly sound, I thought really kind of helped, and it gave it kind of like a different change of pace. If we listen to everything over here, we do have some percussion going on. I found a really interesting loop here. Let's check out this loop real quick. Yeah, actually, I just took part of the loop over here, and I just took one section of it and then kind of messed with the middle drum. You can hear all that in the background, but you can hear it's a little more over here, a little more subdued. I just have those high drums going on, and then I have like a middle drum just kind of going boom, boom, just to kind of keep the rhythm moving. So that, with the rest of the percussion, we have the tambourine, we have a little bit of snare drum that pops in right here. So I got timpani, bum, bum. Snare drum comes in. So the snare drum was once so hidden, and now for the percussion ensemble, he's kind of leading the team. So let's hear all of that from there. And then I have a little bit. So every 4 bars or so, I try to introduce some sort of new element just to keep the ear flowing, keep the ear intrigued the whole time. So like, for example, I added in this big low drum that pops in right here. Let's check that out right here. And every other beat he has an accent. He's doing dum, dum, da, 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 just to kind of keep the momentum going forward. Because that's a great way to kind of keep the momentum moving forward and to not overpower the mix. Because you want it to feel like something's new, but you don't need to like completely take the attention away from the melody either. So if you take it back a couple of measures, that drum's gonna come in, and it's not like the end of the world that he came in. Like here. He had his little moment, add a little bit of oomph, and now we're on to the next section. The big rhythm break. Yeah, so that's the big section. Only thing I was going to say about this last section, though, I did have the woodwinds kind of dub it a little bit. Just a little bit of flute action. I thought that was kind of a cute little dub with the dulcimer here. So halfway through, I throw in that. Just, again, keep the ears intrigued, a little bit of change every now and again. So this section right here, the ensemble, or at least the orchestra section, or the melodic instruments of the orchestra, I should say, very simple part. If you look at the strings right here, let's check that out. So this is just strings. So just down, up, up, up. Yeah, it's a very simple pattern just to kind of keep, some rhythmic intrigue. We've been having this da 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 sort of pattern going on, and so having the upbeats emphasized just gives it a different feeling. The brass is doing something complementary to them just to kind of give it a little more balls, a little more emphasis. And then just on the accents of the beat. Bum, bum. You add that with the strings, it sounds like so. The brass comes in. Which makes sense, because if you're going for a little bit of realism, you want to have the brass have opportunity to breathe. So you probably wouldn't have them dub every single note in this section. And then if we take a look at the percussion, because this is kind of like a percussion break, is the way that I'm thinking of it at least. Let's check this guy out. Here we go. Big moment. Oh, yeah. So again, this loop is doing a lot of the dirty work for me. If we take a look at him right here. I just love the sound of that big bass drum. You could tell it's got a little bit of that sub bass frequency in there. It just makes it really dramatic when that finally comes in. Because if you think of this being the main drum loop back here as well, when you hear that come in, it's just very satisfying. It's giant. And then we also have some other stuff going on. Let's see. I guess I had the tambourine for half the section for no reason. That's kind of funny. Must have been an accident. So we have the snare drum, of course. Kind of leading everything forward. And then I have these call and response sections. Oh, real quick, look at the marching band symbol, kind of emphasizing what the brass was doing. Very straightforward. But then I have this call and response with this like low tom drum and literal trash cans. So Damage has some really interesting samples. They literally will record the most interesting things they can find. It's usually in their junkyard section. They literally will take giant pipes and find a giant old abandoned trash can, record it, and slam that thing. And that's how you get this sort of sound. I messed with it a lot just to kind of get this sort of sound to sound right in the mix. But you could hear the call and response that we have between like the trash cans and this big fill. So we got da-da-da. And if you have headphones, you could definitely hear the panning going back and forth a little bit. So it's really interesting. So when you put all of the percussion together, we have quite an interesting ensemble. Again, is this like traditional Renaissance percussion? Nah, that's not really the point. I was trying to find the line between modern action and some Renaissance flavor. So yeah, it's because I want to have a little bit of fun with it, still put my own twist on it, and not do strict Renaissance medieval stuff. And then everything together. All right, let's move on along to the next section. I bring back the fanfare, because you need another fanfare. Yeah, so very cool thing. I just literally just slap in the trumpet fanfare again. But if you're going to reintroduce a theme, you need to give a reason why you're doing it again. And you need to represent it in some sense. So I had like, instead of having no percussion this time, where if you remember before, where I had that sort of fanfare over here, there was nothing. It was a full hard stop, which made sense for the context. For here, I wanted to kind of still have the percussion in the background, almost like a like in a hip hop song, they might take out like all of the low drums and just have like the hi-hat, the clap and then the melody. That's kind of what I was thinking of here. So you have big, giant percussion. And you just got this little high drum. Bum, bum. And then we move on to the next section. Not a lot to show here, so I'm going to show you the transitions, probably the most interesting stuff in general. Hey, thanks for chatting. Omega Music League asks, is this Heaviosity or NI Action String? So this is Heaviosity, actually. What I'm rocking with right now is the Novo strings. And then I also got the Forzo brass and then Damage 2 from Heaviosity. This is a very heavy mix in general. So right here is this sort of trumpet fanfare that we were kind of bouncing off of right here. Oops, wrong button. Wow, that's a lot of wrong buttons. There we go. So that's the sort of trumpet fanfare with just the Damage 2 percussion. And this big transition. I do this little tambourine roll, which is a lot of fun, with the suspense symbol. It really helps with this sort of medieval context in general. So, yeah, feel free to ask any more questions about the song or anything. Again, this is for a game score that we're working on. So, let's take a look at the next section. I reintroduced that lute melody from before. Now it's on French horn. Very dramatic. So I didn't word for word recreate the what's it called? The melody for the dulcimer that had it before. I try to make it as if, like, again, I like to cosplay as a film composer who was a hip hop producer. That's how I kind of think of some tracks sometimes. And so I'm imagining, okay, you have like this new singer coming in to sing the same melody. They're not going to sing it the same way. So there's going to be some variation in the phrasing and the way that you do it in general. And that's what I was kind of thinking with the French horn. We have a different player. They're going to have a different take on the melody, a different interpretation. And so you can kind of see, like, I added stuff like the dun-dun-dun and the call and response, or just the way they do the melody is just kind of a little bit different because one is a hammered, more percussive instrument. This is like a breathing instrument in general. So, trying to give a little bit of nuance to the player, allowing them to be themselves, even though it's actually me playing and it's all robots. But besides the point, all right? So let's take a look at the section we got in general right here. I'm going to mute the French horn so we could just appreciate the accompaniment a little bit. Yeah, so we got the strings here. So they're doing something very similar, where before I took out the front end of that sort of accompaniment. Now I took out the back end. Yeah, so nothing super crazy. Just wanted to keep that moving, a slight variation on the accompaniment. I have a lot more woodwind action right here. That's a lot of fun. You could think of this kind of dubbing the low strings, or just some of the straightforward strings, we'll say. So like the violin and the bass. Right, so. And then over here, the flutes get a little bit more crazy. Just a little bit more crazy. So we add this sort of, this little oboe melody here that's kind of interesting, a little tucked away in the mix. So that's kind of cool. And then I add, again, just like the last time, I added the flute to dub the melody. Very interesting. So that's those two guys. Let's look at what the brass is doing. Nothing really until the melody comes in. I was laughing. I was like, wait, is there anything? So you got this little call and response right here, and then literally a French horn just holds a note. Big note. And then they do this big call and response right here. Nothing super crazy. Let's check that one more time. Pressing wrong button. Sorry, I only have one hand today, so I'm getting used to working my computer with just one hand. So, all right, so let's check out all the lutes and the dulcimers. Those guys are doing fun stuff. Again, those are kind of locking in on that staccato pattern we talked about, where they got the violin, the cello, or the bass, and the woodwinds. They're all kind of doing that sort of rhythm. Holding the fort down. All right, let's take a look at... Let's take a look at the percussion next. So, again, the percussion is going to be doing something similar to what we had before. The percussion it's the same primary loop that we have. It's the, of course, a lot of the same instruments. I think I'm trying to combine what we had in the primary A section with the stuff we had going on in the B section into one big sort of revelation through the percussion ensemble, just to kind of blend everything together. So we'll have like the tambourine, we'll have that big drum loop we talked about, the snares, the marching cymbals, all of that sort of stuff. So let's take a look at that. Let's isolate just the percussion real quick. Yeah, we could do it like that. Again, so I have that big drum on bottom, but now I have more fills with that tom loop. So I'm not going to break down everything because a lot of this is just kind of bringing everything together. I'll play it one more time. So you got the hi-hat, sort of marching cymbal, the tambourine's dubbing it, and this is everything together. Yeah, the only different thing here was I added harp and piano. This just kind of push the ball forward a little bit. Added the harp just for extra emphasis. Yes, very cutesy stuff right there. And then we come back to the percussion break to bring it all back to the beginning. I slowly start taking stuff away. Again, this is very similar to the percussion break, except I have this sort of melodic motif that's going on. Just this da-da-da, la-da-da. So the goal is like you have this little idea and everyone in the ensemble is kind of saying it. And they're all, if you have headphones on, you can really appreciate the stereo. But even without, you can get the concept. Like all of a sudden, it's coming from the left. It's coming to the middle. It's coming from the right, popping back over here, and it's popping up everywhere. And then you get halfway through, and now it's accelerating in speed. It's doubled. So you have over here, over there. They do it one more time. Now they're doing it very fast. And the goal is they come back to that very beginning melody. If you remember from the beginning, I have this sort of la-da-da-da-da-da. Right? So when I come back over here, they hit that melody again. Because again, the goal with a game score is to try to get the song to loop. That's the number one thing. And this one, I kind of wrote myself into a hole. I was like, how the heck am I going to get this back to the beginning? I wrote an intro to this song, and it's, this is going to be kind of a challenge. So if you could, I'll show you how it loops real quick. Right here, they play that melody. And boom, that takes us back to the beginning. So it's kind of a fun way. I'll just kind of show you the MIDI for the orchestra real quick. So as you can see, It's like that drum break that we had before, but now we're just adding in space for that melody to pop through. The da-da-da, da-da-da, just a little triad. And you can see it over here. It starts high, da-da-da-da-da-da, then it goes low, da-da-da-da-da-da. And even descends in volume, just to kind of help with the loop, so. And then the percussion is kind of a subdued version of the percussion break, because it's less a percussion break and more of like a revisiting of that theme. Percussion gets down smaller, less percussion, and then it's out. So, yeah, that is the piece. The only other thing I'll show you is I have the victory cue that I forgot about way over here, tucked away. It sounds like this. Yeah, it's very short. It's you kill the king, and then boom, you get a little victory fanfare as such. Very short, simple, to the point. If I had more time to mix, I might have adjusted the mids a little bit there, but I mean, I was pretty happy with how it turned out in general. So, what do you guys think in the comments? Anything else that you want me to briefly touch base on before we kind of wrap up the stream today? I'll kind of play it from the beginning, and we could just kind of revisit all the little working pieces together. Again, giant, big intro, big swell. Again, right here, you feel a lot more of the action rather than the medieval or the Renaissance stuff. Get the big strings come in. You're just kind of enjoying the big melody and the percussion. Big fanfare transition, and we get to work. And then we make room for the dulcimer. Big transition for the drum break. Revisiting the fanfare right here. And then we get back to work. A little more triumphantly now. And then we try to get back to the beginning. Kind of a revisiting of the theme. That plunges us back to the depths of the beginning. And that's the piece. So, if you'd like to check out the game and play it for yourself, join us on the Discord server. I got the link and everything on there. If you also want to check out the song, I'll probably put a link to that pretty soon on our Discord server as well. Again, I am Dylan from Twin Pine Studios. Kind of a shorter stream today. Last one I did was 4 hours. This one was just kind of a light little Friday stream just to kind of talk about a piece I worked on recently. So if you have any questions or anything, again, join us in the Discord server, and I will see you all next time. Thank you very much for joining us today.